actual technological and biological distinctiveness to our own.
Yikes! The Borg always did scare the ever-loving bejesus out of me.
Ship is under attack.
Yeah, no kidding, we're under attack. Hello, Borg! Need some firepower from my pathetic little ship. Emergency power to shields, come on, give me some staying power here. Nope, nope, ah. Yep, shield's failing. It's not the only thing that's failing. Ah. And of course, there we are, smeared across the surface of the Borg. Should have seen that coming. Welcome to another MMO Anthropology. Welcome everyone to another MMO Anthropology. I'm bringing you into the video game Star Trek Online because, well, as everyone should know, I am a little bit of a Trekkie. I've loved this show since I first discovered, well, it through Deep Space Nine and Next Generation. I've got myself a little Andorian. Here we have some sort of a weird little, very, very preppy Federation club on the Earth Dock outpost. Star Trek has enjoyed a great deal of fanfare and a gigantic fan culture. There is a tremendous amount of world building that has just grown out of the original Star Trek, which is one of the longest running series of all time. It spawned a gigantic number of shows, and it has an aesthetic that everyone can recognize the moment that they see it. Star Trek Online is a perfect and excellent example of this come to form. You see individuals wearing outfits that you have come to see, all the different variations. There are spacecraft. It's too bad that we can't see them flying around outside this window. That would actually be an interesting element that they could add to the game. Maybe without the titles and stuff like that, because as you'll discover later, they do clutter up the screen a little bit. It takes some time to get used to space combat when you've got 20 other people on top of you. However, I've been looking at this game, and despite the bugginess, and yes, it is a little bit buggy, especially for an MMO that's been around for as long as it has, it is quite deliciously wonderful. So let's jump out and head out to a ship and find some combat so that I can show you what that's like while I start discussing the social impact of this game and the way that people approach gameplay. I'll see you on the other side. Here we are in sector space. That's basically where you go when you leave Starbase or you're flying around the galaxy. Here is the sector map. It's got the astrometrics, which I believe that these are essentially best warp paths. Let me introduce you to my little science ship, which I think you'll probably see being obliterated by a Borg cube at the beginning, because I figured I'd jump into an event and try my best knocking that out. Oh yeah, these little pop-ups come up a lot when you're near objects and stuff like that, so let me slow down so that we have a tendency not to. This is the USS Cassiopeia. You actually can see her name on the hull there, just barely. I named her after a queen from Greek mythology who was well known for her beauty and eloquence, except for she was also arrogant and vain. And this came to her downfall. And ended her being put in the sky as a constellation. The constellation Cassiopeia is visible almost all year round to people in the northern hemisphere because of its how close it is to Polaris, the North Star. The music in this game is brilliant, and as you all know, it has recently gone free to play, and a number of guilds have been seeing gigantic influx of people. And point in fact, upon joining on pretty much all of my alts getting through the initial portions of the game, I discovered myself being yanked into a guild, you know, The guild spam, or at least guild invite spam, is tremendous in this game, and guilds are looking for people. They are very happy to bring them on. However, like, various ones are well established. Anthropologically, this could be seen as established cultures. Oh, the Andoria system. No, thank you. Already established cultures, especially ones where we have little contact with them or others, come and butt up against other cultures, especially when new technologies open up the ability to contact them. We can see this sort of effect maybe in games like Star Trek Online, which are going to have a massive shift from the previous folkways. And that's to say, originally everyone who came into this game was someone who was paying to be here, and because they were paying to be here, that meant that they had some sort of established cause to remain on the character. They tended to spend more time. You could see them as having a little bit less reason just to come in and ditch again. Especially Star Trek Online, which only seems to have one shard. Unlike extremely popular games like World of Warcraft, which have lots of shards, which means that people might jump in and out and pop into alts all the time and disappear from your guild for no reason. The guild that I joined is actually pretty vibrant. They've been talking to each other considerably. I haven't had a good discussion with any of them, but for the most part, they seem to be taking the great deal of new users pretty well. There seems to be a huge length to this game, and Perfect World Entertainment is the ones who took it over. Oh, there's an enemy. I'm going to jump in there and show you a little bit of combat as part of this discussion. One of the things about Star Trek Online is that when they were going free to play, they were looking for reasons to give people to actually invest in the game. Because it's free to play, you can download and play it without having a subscription. I believe that there is a subscription case for people who have gold membership. However, everyone else who is free to play must use what are essentially cryptic points in order to purchase certain items. There are alternative ships, etc., that don't seem to be... Hold on, let's jump in here. The pay-to-play ships, or excuse me, the ships that you pay to play with, do not seem to be overpowered or even have too much of an edge on others. Mostly they seem to be costumes, looks, etc. Cryptic and Perfect World Entertainment appear to be going the route of let's give people an aesthetic look rather than you know, taking away and like just handing people the game. One of the things that they do is allow you to buy into higher level ships if you don't want to sit there and grind through the game, which will allow casual players a lot more introduction. Warship here. Not getting a bead on it though. There we go. Yeah, no kidding. I kitted this ship out as a science vessel. I have 2 arcs of fire, my rear and my forward. Yeah, there it went. Whoop. Thank goodness that running into people in this game does not hurt you, otherwise I'd be wrecking things left and right. I am a terrible pilot. Oh, well, that sucked. Well, it'll be difficult to show you shooting at people if there's no one to shoot at. That certainly causes a bit of a problem. So let me go hunting down someone, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's a few more. I figured that I'd take on one of... Oh, not him. Well, not him, not him. That guy may be much lower level than me, but he's handed me my ass several times. He's one of the flagships of the Klingon Empire. So, basically the game plays like a sort of miniaturized capital ship warfare. You have fields of fire and arcs. Your shields have arcs, and the idea is to knock down the other person's shields and then pound their hull in. If If you're using phasers, mostly your phasers will cut their shields down and then their hull open. If you're using disruptors, it can spray damage through their shields into the ship. Oh, there's a good old something that looks sort of like a Constitution. Or no, actually that looks more like the Next Generation ship. Pretty much it is a lot of fun getting into fights in your ship. People are taking on the Chang, so I'll go aid them and hopefully not get myself obliterated in the process. For the most part, Perfect World Entertainment and Cryptic are trying to bring people together using various social functions. One of them is they have daily alerts where they bring people to basically instanced combat, where they're joined into a raid to fight things. One of them that I showed you was the Borg encounter from before, where you're automatically joined into a group and then thrust into combat to stop the Borg from invading the Alpha Quadrant or wherever. Well, he went down easy. This glowy sort of nebula stuff, I think, is some sort of horrible debuff that causes massive damage to your hull. I hate getting in it. Apparently that must have been what took the Chang down. They are also including something called officer reports, which is basically in-game user-centric content where you can make, where people get to make missions. The game is predicated on a mission context where you go into instanced events when you take a quest. Wow, the redemption here is really plowing through stuff. So, when you go through the instance content, you also have some ground-based stuff, and I'm going to jump in back to the Starbase in order to continue speaking to you about this particular element of the game. No, that wasn't true. I decided that I was going to go to Starfleet Academy instead. It is a lovely little place. There's the Golden Gate Bridge. As everyone might know, Starfleet Academy is in San Francisco. But there is a portion of the game that is done in the standard MMORPG model, not just flagships around blowing other people up. And I believe that the officer reports, which essentially in the Star Trek context suggest that you are taken onto the holodeck. I don't know if it involves ship combat as well as ground combat. Ground combat, of course, gives you phasers, phaser rifles, and other weaponry that you can use at your disposal. You are sometimes asked to beam down to targets in order to shoot at stuff, gather information, and take away teams, and etc. And of course, that adds the secondary element to the game, which is much more like traditional MMORPGs, games like World of Warcraft, and etc. Officer reports is interesting because not only do people get to make their own quest content. Whoop, maybe I should move because I'll keep on having people beaming in on me. Oh, what a lovely little... We will stand in front of this lovely little... Actually, let me have the Golden Gate in the background for a little bit. Ta-da! Officer Reports is interesting because it's going to have users create special content. And then, as part of a socialization aspect of the game, Cryptic and Perfect World International then have an hour a day where they ask people to go and access the officer reports and vote on them and etc. And they give you in-game experience and etc. and perhaps dilithium, which is one of the more important in-game currencies for using the officer reports, which means that they're forcing a sort of interaction between people that involves creativity and creating things. I'm probably going to go check that out and see what sort of quality of stuff appears in there, and maybe I'll get back to you in the future. Meanwhile, this has been another MMO Anthropology. I hope that all of you have a absolutely lovely day, good night, and good dreams. This has been another episode of MMO Anthropology. Be sure to send us a like and a subscribe if you've liked what you've been watching, and drop us a comment if you can. Otherwise, you might get assimilated by the Borg. Damn, these guys creep me out.